Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Friday afternoon. Yay! Okay, if you got through Thirsty Thursday and you have some energy and you want some tea, let's talk about 90 Day Fiance since all of you guys and America is obsessed with this show right now. Okay, I think it's because we're all stuck at home and there's really nothing good on TV, and this is about as good of entertainment can get right now because the couples on this show are ridiculous! And no couple is more ridiculous than Ash and Avery. Well, I don't know. Ed and Rose, maybe. Oh, wait. Usman and Lisa. This cast is filled with like train wrecks every direction you go. But this day, we're going to talk about Avery and Ash because you guys, last week's episode was ridiculous. I can't even tell you how much cringe was going through my brain when I was watching him describe women's heads as interconnected little like blibbly blobs where everything is emotional and men have boxes and a spot where nothing is. Turns out Ash's entire like spiel about, how to keep a man and how women's and men's brains are different comes from this pastor named Mark, who has this whole series about like getting through marriage, and it's this ridiculous thing that he does through a church, which basically is an outdated idea that women are super emotional and men are void of emotion, and therefore we think differently. Men have no thoughts, only think at one thing at a time, and it's like me caveman, you wife, that whole thing. Well, he basically ripped off the entire like thing from this guy. It's all over Instagram, it's all over Twitter. I even posted a clip of it. You can even find it on YouTube. But so he gives this like seminar about how you can keep a man and what men and women need to know about each other, and he goes into this ridiculous thing about men have this box of nothing, and everyone sort of like turns the women that are there like it's not 1950. I mean, he's talking about grandparents. Your grandparents, your grandparents. They knew grandma and grandpa. They wanted you to like. Women stayed home. And he's talking about female and male energy and the feminine energy and, men and women, and everyone needs a male and a feminine, and you can't have two feminines. You have to have a female and a male, which is, by the way, like what happens to people that are of the same sex in a relationship, Ash? If you're so evolved, could you tell me about that? Why don't you ever talk about that part, Ash, Mr. Evolved, Mr. Coach? Then he goes on and does love languages, which again isn't his stuff. So is this all he knows how to do is like bite off other people's stuff, plagiarize his work, and pass it on as his own? Oh yes, that's exactly what Ash does. Okay, now that we know that, let's talk about the sneak peek. So in this upcoming episode, we ended last episode with him sort of like walking away from her because they got into an argument with her asking him like, do you understand that when you say these things to women, it will make them feel, upset? You are putting them in a place where you're saying this is how something is, and it puts people in a defensive situation because not everyone is the same. And he's like, you're not understanding, and he's acting like women are stupid because because we can see that what he's saying is ridiculous. It's no, you don't understand what I'm saying. Well, before we actually get into that, I want to show you some things. Avery actually answered some questions on Instagram. And so some tidbits about that seminar. She says that they were not paid to be there, and it was an open event that anyone could attend. She thought the episode was very hard to watch, and she felt bad watching it back. She said Ash is extremely smart and understands a lot of things. Caveman smart, understands things. Like, what? Good terminology. I just feel he didn't express himself the way he meant to. She said she had mixed emotions during the seminar. She wanted to be supportive. She was aware that he was struggling, but she wanted to make sure that she understood that he was, expressing himself, and that what she understood him saying was what he believed. She said that there was a ton of tension in the room. They didn't pay anything to be there. And he was under a lot of pressure. She said that she felt a lot of empathy for him because he was doing public speaking in front of cameras and doing something he didn't normally do. She said her approach to handle things is to go straight forward. He had done a few of these before, Apparently the ladies knew, and there was a lot of stuff we didn't see where they were interacting with her and knew that she was the girl in his life. She says that he didn't express himself properly. She felt empathy for him, and he just poorly expressed himself. So you can check. I mean, these were all in her stories. I don't know. She was like defending him and saying like he's super smart about things and stuff. He just wasn't expressing himself correctly. No, really, he was. He was expressing himself fine. Men need cave. Woman, you make baby. You make food. I mean, that's basically what Ash was saying. Now, asked whether or not they're together, they said, with last night's mishap and you answering these questions, you must be still together. And she said, you may be surprised. It could just be someone who can come from a place of love and response, regardless of if the person is an ex or not. Ooh, these two might be over. Well, that's an interesting tidbit because in this new episode, in the sneak peek that was released on TLC, we find the two of them arguing after everything that fell out. So they're at the pier, they're walking, he walks away, he's all huffy, he's like, she's not listening to me, and Avery's just like, in her cute, amazing sweater. Who wants the sweater that Avery had on in that episode? Me! I want to know where she got it. Thanks, Avery. You don't watch, but if you could, let me know. Drop it in the comments below. Okay. So they are at the pier and he's going to get in the car and then he comes back out and then they start arguing back and forth and he's just like, you're not listening to me and you're making me defensive. And she's like, no, you're making me defensive and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, the sneak peek that was actually released on E! News earlier today says, has an incredibly tense exchange with Avery sort of in the morning saying, we've been arguing ever since Ash's coaching seminar yesterday. I was so disturbed about how he carried himself, but I feel like when I come at him with difficult questions and challenge his opinion, he starts to get really defensive. He does, because Ash thinks he knows everything, you guys. Ash is that guy that's like, I'm a man and I know so much more than you and I'm evolved and you are a mere mortal. Because your feminine energy is so emotional, it can't understand the high level of intelligence I have. You're an emotional woman. I am an intelligent man. You see why you have to come to me for advice. That's what I think he thinks in his brain. So it cuts to Ash, and he's kind of like in a hallway or outside the room of wherever she is, and he says, she stripped me down in a way that as a man, I actually don't know what to do. Wait a minute, she stripped you down? How did she strip you down, Ash? Because she literally asked you questions and pushed back on your beliefs and said, the way that you think is actually like outdated? That's not stripping you down. It's literally asking and seeking clarification. And if you understand that the way you're delivering this to women of the 21st century might seem a bit sexist, she says that he goes on to say that he failed as a coach to communicate properly at his seminar and that Avery refuses to let go. And we just can't stop arguing right now. How did you fail to communicate when your entire speech is laden with sexism, discussing women in terms of emotional and men incapable of emotion? I mean, that is the kind of stuff we saw in the 1950s. I mean, that's like how my grandparents were. And my grandparents lived until they were like, my grandma was almost 100 and my grandpa was almost 90. And they practically hated each other for the last like 30 years of their marriage. Is that what we want? Are these kind of like emotionless, like unhappy relationships? No, women have evolved. And we don't think in such black and white terms. I mean, ugh. And this whole thought process, by the way, comes from a very patriarchal mindset within the evangelical Christian sect. And I'm not against Christianity. I'm just saying, like, women and men cannot be put into boxes of men are like this and women like that. Like, we don't classify the world like that anymore. So anyways, he said, I'm realizing that she didn't have my back at all. It actually really breaks my heart. Like, even just thinking about it and just going through it, it really breaks my heart. She didn't have your back because you said things that were offensive, Ash. Come on. With Avery having traveled all the way to Australia from America to visit him, and they're about to meet his ex-wife, by the way, with his son, they broke up multiple times before she got there. He has a kid that he's promised he can bring to the United States, which turns out might not be true, which he learned on this trip. And, he's wondering at this point if he wants to walk away from her for good. Seriously, because she didn't have his back. Because she had the audacity to question the things that he said to a group of women that she thought appeared to put women in a place where they didn't feel like they were being heard or spoken to in a way that was respectful. This is what drives me crazy about these coaches. First off, from everything that I can tell, Ash has 0 credentials. None. He lists no credentials whatsoever. None. He doesn't list a degree. He certainly doesn't have a doctorate in anything. He doesn't even list a bachelor's degree. He doesn't list any psychology background. He doesn't list any coaching expertise. He doesn't list any certificates in coaching or any education in coaching. Basically, what Ash does is he finds stuff online, he reads it, and then he regurgitates other people's material, and then he passes it off to women as though he's the expert, and then he uses it to con women into listening to him. And if you go to his Instagram, it is high-level BS without any depth, talking about this new age approach, which is effectively much like the fundamentalists believe about women, by the way. It's just a different spin on it. It's crazy. You can classify things in a way and say you're not sexist, but at the end of the day, if what you're presenting to a woman is that you're not understanding me because you don't get it, when really the words that you're saying are sexist and how you're talking to women about them is rude. It's kind of like when people were, remember that guy, that comedian that wrote the book, He's Just Not That Into It? Everyone was so obsessed with that book, and I thought it was so rude and so offensive and so degrading to women, as though we were so stupid that we didn't understand or couldn't see things. And it's like, oh, it takes a guy to tell us how dumb we are, and it takes a man to point us in the right direction. How about women empowering women and women telling women, hey, you can do this, you are strong, you are brave, you are amazing, you have the confidence, skills, and everything you need. You don't need a man to tell you how to date. Nobody needs a man. Nobody needs a dating coach. Come on, you guys. It's 2020. We have Tinder. We have swiping. We have Instagram. We have all these different apps where you can interact. You don't need a coach. If you need a coach and you are being conned by people like Ash and you are giving money to people like Ash, stop. Because all he's doing is regurgitating crap, and people on Instagram have been dragging him for it. In fact, people say, they're accusing him of being an escort. Like, you're just using this as a front in order to meet women and to get dates out of this and get money. Maybe he is. He completely left Instagram. Completely. Because of all the pushback he's been getting. So as long as it was working for him and no one knew about it, it was fine. But now that people are onto him, now he runs away. That's what happens when a con artist and when a charlatan is exposed. And he is a charlatan that's claiming to be an expert, which is really nothing at all. It's gross. It's sick. I don't like it. I can't stand Ash. And it just drives me nuts when men like this are acting like, oh, but she wasn't there for me and she didn't have my back, so no, I need to leave her. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of Avery because of stuff that's come out about her related to her children and what her ex-husband has said, but also just in general, like any mother that's going to leave and go hundreds of thousands or thousands of miles away to another continent to date a man while she still has 2 young kids at home, I don't think is that you've met online. Like, there's something going on upstairs, Avery. You need to talk to someone, and it's not Ash, maybe a therapist. I don't know. But Avery seems like she could get things together, and it's not with Ash, and maybe she just falls for guys like Ash. I don't know. Maybe he's that charming. I don't know. But Avery, hopefully you're not with this tool bag. Hopefully you can get it together. Hopefully what your ex-husband said about you related to your parenting is not true. And hopefully all of this is, I don't know. I hope you've learned a lesson here. Don't go online to find someone in Australia to date, maybe. I don't know. Or don't fall for a relationship coach, maybe. I don't know. What are your thoughts? is it appropriate for Ash to be like, I need to leave? I'm considering leaving her because she didn't have my back. Or should Avery be the one that's like, run? I say, run, Avery, run. All right, you guys, I'll be back later with more. Bye.